Alright guys, so we got our whole trailer stripped down, it's been sandblasted, and now we've moved it over to Leslie's grandfather. He's going to help us with the welding and the reinforcing of it, and also the lift kit. We're going to make our own custom lift kit, because we're also going to use the lift kit to fix a little bit of the rear end sag, and I'll explain how we're going to do that when I'll take the camera off and we'll go around. I'll show you some of the problems we've had and see if I can't explain how we're going to fix those problems. The frame was actually in a little worse shape than we thought it was going to be, or maybe than we hoped it was going to be, but it's not in as bad of shape as some of the other trailers we've seen on YouTube and the air forums and places. So we're trying to stay optimistic. We feel that you have to focus on the positives. It's bad, but it's not as bad as it could be. If you dwell on the negatives, that's really what's going to kill all your motivation and all your drive to continue on with this project. I think that the people who give up and sell their trailers at the various stages of rebuild, that's probably what's happened, outside of, you know, the odd case where someone has a life issue. But we're going to focus on the positives. It's not that bad. Everything's repairable. We've made our steel list of products we need to get. I've taken one of the axles off today. I have footage of that you'll see in a bit. And I'm going to get new axles. So let me take the camera off the tripod and I'll show you some of our problem areas. Alright, sorry about the lighting, guys. I'm doing kind of what I can, but it's there's not a cloud in the sky. It's an incredibly harsh day. Unseasonably hot too. It's like over 40 degrees with the humidex here in Ontario. Again, I don't know what that is in American, but it's hot, especially for us. So this is our first issue. The frame's rotted through here. This should be a double outrigger here. It's right in front of the wheel well. I'll show you over here. You can see on the other side there, it's a double outrigger rather. So we have an issue there. We're going to need to repair the frame. We're actually going to take this whole 3/16 steel piece off, this piece that has the holes in it here. We're going to take that right off and we're going to put a bigger one on, because what we're going to do for a lift kit, you can see over here, typically the lift kits are just a block that go in between the axle and the frame there, and you have 4 blocks, one that goes in each one. But we're going to actually get a piece of 2x3 1/4-inch steel, and then we're going to make it 8 feet long. So it's actually going to stretch from just in front of that outrigger 8 feet back, and that's going to bring up the rear end, because we do have some rear end sag on this trailer. So once we fix that, hopefully it'll be nice and solid. And then when we do that, we're going to custom weld on a new piece of this, and it's going to be an extra 3 inches down here, so it'll cover that new lift kit bar we're going to put on. Other than that, we have just the typical problems. A few bad outriggers. This piece isn't structural. It's the piece that the galvanized tray that held the black and gray water tanks was screwed to. So it had water laying in it. So that's pretty typical. The back end is in rough shape. It's obviously been hit right there. You can see that's what it's supposed to look like, kind of like a C channel. And you can see right there where it bends up. So this has definitely been hit on something. The rear end of this trailer dropped down and hit the ground somewhere. So that's an issue we're going to have to fix. We're going to have to cut that whole rear cross member out and weld a new one in. These outriggers are all in pretty good shape. Again, we'll do the same thing on this side. Take off that 3/16 inch piece and make a bigger one and put it on over covering the lift kit. That piece should also help us stiffen up the rear end of the frame. And then again, we just have some bad outriggers rather, that we'll replace. And in the nose here, we're gonna put a couple cross members there, because they have that big hole there because that's where Airstream puts the sofa in, so the subfloor can span that, because you'll never step there. But we are not putting the sofa there, so we'll have to put in a couple pieces of steel that will act as floor joists. So that's it. That's We have our work cut out for us, that's for sure. But alright guys, I don't know if you'll be able to make this out, but a little bit of sanding, some WD-40, and then rubbing over the whole plate with black marker and wiping off the excess black marker so that the marker gets deposited in the letters, and we can read this whole tag that was completely rusted over. So that's really going to help when getting new axles. Alright, so this is what I was talking about when I said we're going to both use our lift kit to also fix our rear end sag. Typically a Dexter lift kit is just 2 blocks that go in right here underneath each of the axles, but what we chose to do is get an 8-foot piece and run it the full length from just in front of the front axle all the way back to just behind where we have our rear end sag issue. So this whole piece will both give us our 3 inches of lift, and it'll support the back end. Let me just take... Okay, so here you can see the back of the trailer after we've put both axles back in place. They're just clamped there for right now because we're welding up a new side piece. And you can see that with our 8-foot long tube pieces that we've used both as a lift kit and as the piece that's going to reinforce the frame and fix the rear end sag, you can see how much less the rear end is sagging down. Like, there's a significant difference. We did consider running that tubular steel all the way to the back, but we didn't want to stiffen the frame too much. The frame is designed to work as a whole unit with the body of the Airstream, so we wanted to leave a little bit of flexibility in the rear end, so when we attach the body, that'll pull that up and it won't make everything too stiff, so we're not popping rivets or creating too rough of a ride for everything inside of our Airstream, all of the construction we're going to do in there, as well as just the items in the drawers and on the counters and stuff. So this is where we're at right now, and we are going to now put a new piece in place with the side bit. Let me show you what we're doing here. So these pieces were in pretty rough shape. You can see there was a lot of pitting, some spots where they were rusted through, and because of the lift kit, we've added 3 inches of steel. So what we've actually done is right now we're fabricating up new pieces just like this, but they're 3 extra inches. So we'll relocate these cutouts and holes down to the bottom, and that will now go on in here to put the frame back exactly as it was before we ground all this off. So there's a shot of the old versus the new. Again, these are the pieces that weld to the side of the frame. They're cut out for the axles. Right here, these are where the axles attach. And then the holes all through it are for weld points all along the edge. But you can see the comparison of the old there with its rusted out. So those are the issues we were having. The other one's even worse from the passenger side of the trailer. But this new one will go on. It'll be perfect. Okay, so here's that new plate in place. So we put the axles back in place where we scored the top of the frame before we took them off. And so we've set this plate now. The grooves are over the cutouts for the axles are over the axles rather. And we must have done all right because all the bolts lined right up perfectly, so I'm happy with that. So now you can see we've kind of just recreated this piece that existed before with a bigger one that covers our new lift kit. Alright, so this video is getting a little long, so we're going to call it right here. We'll call it part 1 of frame reinforcement. You can see what we've done today. We put both the axles back in place. They're up on top of the 3-inch lift, which is actually under 3 inches underneath the main frame, and we've welded this plate back on, which is just a fabrication of the original plate that was on here, but 3 inches longer. I might have to do some trimming in here when it comes time to put the under wrap back on, but I'll take care of that then. But yeah, so that's what we've done so far. As always, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to follow the rest of this process, hit subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll take the camera off the tripod here and just quickly show you some of what we've got done so far. So here's that plate we talked about. You'll see it follows all along, and we've brought it back as far as the original one came back. That's the tail end of our lift kit there. That also acts as support for the rear end sag in the trailer. If we come around back here, you can see we put a whole new rear cross member on. The old one had 2 holes for the gray and black water plumbing, and it was rusted and pitted really bad. We also put in a new mid support. Now, we probably didn't need that piece. That was there to divide the gray and black water tank, and also the tray for the gray and black water tank screwed up into it. But I wanted to put it back just in case things always change. So right now we're not planning on putting tanks back in the rear end, but if we did decide to, I wanted it there in case I needed to use it. So you can see here's the other plate on the other side we have in place. It has not been welded on yet, so it's all clamped in. And if you want to see from the back side, so that is the support. You can see it overhanging the rear axle there. Right at where that rear axle stopped was where you could tell where the sag started. So we've run our lift kit from up there just in front of the front tire all the way back to this point here, which is a good 2.5–3 feet past the rear axle, which, if you look, is now the rear end is not sagging barely at all. There's a little drop there, but like I say, I wanted it to still drop a little bit. It's supposed to have some flexibility when you put the shell back on. So that's it for this video, and we'll see you guys next time.